In the past hour, the Defence Secretary, Sir Michael Fallon, has resigned, saying his behaviour in the past has fallen short of the standards expected of the armed forces. Let's go straight to Westminster and speak to our political correspondent, Alex Forsyth. What do we know, Alex?
Well, we have received now a letter that Sir Michael Fallon, the Defence Secretary, sent to the Prime Minister, Theresa May, setting out the reasons for his resignation. Now, in that, he says in recent days, a number of allegations have surfaced about MPs, including some about his previous conduct. Now, he says many of these have been false, but I accept that in the past I have fallen below the high standards that we require of the armed forces. He said he's reflected on his position and therefore chosen to resign as Defence Secretary. Now, he goes on in this letter to set out some of the work that he says he's proud of, that he's done in his role, things like the fight against so-called Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, and he says he will continue to work from the back benches. And of course, we have had Theresa May's response to this letter as well, in which she says, I appreciate the characteristically serious manner in which you've considered your position and the particular example you wish to set to servicemen and women and others. Again, the Prime Minister goes on to thank him for some of the work he's done as Defence Secretary and for his service. Now, of course, the context to all of this is the number of allegations that have been swirling around Westminster in recent days about inappropriate behaviour by MPs. The only one that we are aware of in which Sir Michael Fallon had been named was an allegation that dates back 15 years when Sir Michael Fallon apparently apologised after repeatedly touching the knee of a journalist during a dinner at a Conservative Party conference. Now, the journalist in question said that she found that incident mildly amusing, and in fact she's tweeted tonight saying she would be surprised if his resignation was over her knee. And at the time, Sir Michael Fallon had apologised, and the feeling from the journalist was that incident had been dealt with. But it's clear from Michael Fallon's decision to resign tonight that he thinks that his conduct has fallen short of what he would expect of the servicemen and women and therefore himself as the Defence Secretary.
It was interesting, that wording, wasn't it, Alex, that he says he felt his conduct had fallen below the high standard required in his position as Defence Secretary. How key do you think that is?
Well, I think what we can take from this is that he's reflected on what would have no doubt been quite a difficult decision for Sir Michael Fallon, because he's been Defence Secretary since 2014. Before that, he had several roles as a minister in various departments, including as a business minister. This is a very long-serving member of the Conservative Party. He was first elected as an MP in 1983, re-elected again in 1997. So he's had a long career at the upper ranks of the Conservative Party and in various governments, first serving as an assistant whip in Margaret Thatcher's government. So I think it wouldn't have been an easy decision for him to have chosen to resign. It very rarely is an easy decision for a cabinet minister to make. But what he's clearly saying is that allegations about his past conduct, and interestingly that he has stressed his past conduct, fall short of the standards required of servicemen and women. So I think he's deliberately not casting aspersions on any other MPs. He's talking about himself and the measure he's holding himself against. And he admits that he has fallen short, hence his resignation.
It was interesting as well, wasn't it, earlier in the week when he did apologise for repeatedly touching this journalist's knee, that he didn't get a full endorsement from Theresa May at that point, did he?
That's right. The Prime Minister's official spokesman was asked about it when that story surfaced a few days ago. And no, there wasn't a ringing endorsement. There wasn't my full support is behind Sir Michael Fallon. But I think it's worth remembering that in all of the allegations that are swirling around, Number 10 has been very keen to be seen to be taking them seriously and taking action, which is why we've had other ministers referred to the Cabinet Office for investigation when allegations have come up about them. So I think Number 10 is very determined that with everything that's going on about the claims of misconduct, that they want to be seen to act where they need to. Now, in this instance, there was no condemnation of Sir Michael Fallon. It's a decision that he has taken to step down and resign because he judges his conduct to fall short of where it should be.
Michael Fallon close to Theresa May, as indeed is somebody else caught up with all these allegations that you've been talking about, Damien Green. He too is in the spotlight.
Damien Green is effectively the de facto Deputy Prime Minister, the First Secretary of State. And yeah, he has been referred to the Cabinet Secretary, the most senior civil servant. Now, that is over allegations again that he texted somebody and asking them out for dinner, and that he fleetingly touched this person's knee. And now he said that that absolutely denies that that amounts to anything near harassment or misconduct. He was very verbal in his denial today and has in fact instructed lawyers. But nonetheless, he has been referred to the Cabinet Secretary for investigation. And again, it's just a measure of how seriously Number 10, and in fact the whole government and every other party leader, is taking the allegations that are currently surfacing and have been in recent days. I think we've seen from the Labour Party that they are changing their rules internally about the way such allegations are reported. We heard from Theresa May that she's writing to other party leaders to try and work out how to deal with allegations of this nature. So all of this points to the severity with which these allegations are being treated in Westminster at the moment.
And where do you think the resignation of Michael Fallon fits into all of that?
Well, it will be unwelcome from the Prime Minister's perspective. I think, in her letter, she's very clear that she is grateful, appreciative of the fact that he has taken a look at what he views to be his own conduct. And she says, I appreciate the characteristically serious manner in which you've considered your position and the example you're choosing to set to servicemen and women. So on that front, she's recognising that he's choosing to take action. So therefore, she perhaps won't have to when it comes to Sir Michael Fallon. But when you look at the broader government, this is not a particularly stable government or cabinet at the moment. The bigger context of everything that's going on, which is a divided cabinet when it comes to the big issue of the day, which is Brexit. We know there are differing views. A Prime Minister that was weakened by a difficult election result. The last thing that Theresa May will want at this stage in proceedings is key members of her cabinet, key allies of her, to be resigning. And Sir Michael Fallon in particular, he was appointed in 2014, but he is very much considered a safe pair of hands in government. He is the one who was rolled out to give interviews in defence of government policy or explaining government policy. You'll frequently see him on the airwaves, and he is always considered to be a pretty stable member of the government. So this particular resignation, I'm sure, won't come at a very easy time for Theresa May, and I'm sure that she probably hadn't wanted to be in this position.
We're hearing, Alex, that Michael Fallon himself is probably going to make a statement in front of television cameras within the next hour, which of course we will be watching. In the meantime, you mentioned the composition of the cabinet. What impact will this have on the balance within the cabinet? What impact will his resignation have?
Well, Sir Michael Fallon, if we look at the balance in terms of Brexit, which is the key issue, which is the most divisive in the cabinet at the moment, Sir Michael Fallon supported Remain in the referendum, but he was one of the first to describe himself as a Eurosceptic. He was never a total advocate of the European Union. He had reservations about it, despite the fact he did come down on the Remain side. So when you look at the key splits in the cabinet, you have people like the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, who has long advocated a pretty soft approach to leaving the European Union, versus some of the others in the cabinet, Boris Johnson, Liam Fox, David Davis, who are long-standing Brexiteers. Now, Michael Fallon didn't absolutely fall into a camp, but he was undoubtedly an ally of Theresa May and seen as someone to do the job of government, do the safe, secure business of governing pretty well. So I think his resignation will be felt as a loss from Theresa May's perspective.